Hello, everyone. Welcome into another edition of Cardinals Weekly. I'm Ahmad Hicks.
And I'm Corey Miller. We were off last week.
Yep.
Ahmad was on vacation. Honestly, it looked like the Cardinals were on vacations too.
This entire month.
Not a whole lot of great things to talk about, but we got to dive into it anyways because you got to take the good, the bad, and the ugly.
And we're going to make this fun.
A lot of ugly, but we'll dive into it here. Let's lead off. So what was supposed to be an easy June, if you're looking at the schedule, turned into a pretty disastrous one so far. We're recording this on Saturday, and as we come into Saturday, the Cardinals are 6-16 in the month of June.
Pretty bad.
They've lost 18 of their last 24. They've seen themselves plummet to 7 games back in the NL Central.
Lost their last 5 in a row.
And they're under 500.
Yeah.
It's just been a sad state of affairs, and there's really no interesting reason to watch a game right now.
And you know what? Just pointing out to that point, the Cardinals typically average about 42,000 fans inside of Busch Stadium per season. This year they're averaging what? Well, last night they had, 33,000 there?
And you could go at full capacity.
Yes, and so that just shows you Cardinal Nation is not excited about this team, probably because John Mozeliak hinted at the fact that they don't have to win this year. Who says that?
We'll get to that in a second here. That's not a great look from your front office probably, and not a great look in post game the other day when Tommy Edman pretty much just called out the coaching staff a little bit. Let's look at the offense first. So it doesn't matter if you can't score runs, you're not going to win no matter how good or bad the pitching is. So in 15 of these games in June, the Cardinals scored 3 or fewer runs.
Yeah.
That's not going to cut it. There's just no offense really. Coming into Saturday, Cardinals have the 4th worst average in baseball, 4th worst OBP, 6th worst slugging, 5th worst OPS. So that's just another way of saying.
So what are they good at, Corey?
They look, I don't know, their uniforms still look good.
I was just going to say that. The birds on the bat, you can't beat it.
So, yeah, the offense is just undeniably sluggish. And you look at individual guys, Tommy Edman, who we just mentioned, he's hitting .227 with a .236 on-base percentage.
Not good.
And 1 walk in the month of June.
Not good.
543 OPS. He was dropped from the leadoff spot. They couldn't go with him anymore there. They moved him way down in the order.
Right.
You love his versatility, and he can make some exciting plays every once in a while, but he's not getting it done at the top of the order right now.
Tyler O'Neill is the guy who we were raving about at the start of the month. I mean, what's up with him now?
He hasn't hit a home run since June 14th. He's really cooled off. He still gave himself enough of a pad that his stats look pretty good so far. That's for sure. And he's making some headway in the All-Star game voting. But yeah, he's not stinging it like he used to. Paul DeYoung, who now, of course, we're recording this on Saturday, and he just hit a home run before we came out here to talk. But coming into Saturday, he looks like an automatic out. Since coming back from his injury, he's hitting 114 with just 5 hits.
Not good.
That's terrible. He comes up there and you're like, okay,
It makes you wonder, why is he playing over Edmundo Sosa? Although we know he's a little dinged up now. That guy, I think, proved that he should be the starter every day, right?
Yeah, they're trying some new things here. Arenado and Goldschmidt, they've got respectable numbers, but they don't have star numbers
we need.
Like you're expecting, especially with the rest of the offense doing nothing in this past month.
You know, I said something. The Cardinals' offensive game the past month, or this season rather, has been quieter than our town on Sundays after the Rams left. It's been that quiet, you know?
Oh, boy. They did make a change. They brought a new guy up.
They did. Lars Nootbaar.
Lars Nootbaar.
I love that name.
Who I find myself just sitting there saying his name out loud all the time because I love it so much. Now, they said on the broadcast, his brother's name is Nigel Nootbaar. Isn't that like the coolest name ever?
You know, when I saw it, he was playing MLB The Show last year, and you know he was in the Cardinals minor league system. I thought that was a made-up player. I was like, who is Lars Nootbaar? What type of name is that? But I actually love it. I mean, it just rolls off the tongue.
It looks like an automated player name. So he's gotten a little bit of a spark here. He plays good defense. They're putting him. Mike Schultz played him pretty much every single game since he's been up. They need some kind of spark. Maybe he can give them a little bit of something, so I don't think there's any hurt trying him out there.
Play those hungry guys that are eager to prove something, because right now the guys who are up there, I'm not saying they're complacent, but they're comfortable right now. They know their jobs are secure, like the Matt Carpenters and the Tommy Edmans. They're not going anywhere, but they're not being challenged right now. So I think you bring these young guys up from Memphis, let them come up here, do something, and motivate those other guys to pick it up a little bit.
So Mike Schultz teased the lineup change-up. Although it wasn't really much of a lineup. She just kind of moved everybody up one spot. Dylan Carlson leading off now. I think it's probably the right decision at this time. But kind of handcuffed. You got to play some of these guys no matter what. So I guess the lineup, as it's been rolling out, you got Carlson, Goldschmidt, Arenado, O'Neal, Molina, that's your top 5. I think that's what you got to go with right
Yeah,
now.
I mean, now, if you're looking at this lineup, Corey, where do they get some relief from? I mean, we talk about the trade rumors all the time, but that's possibly not an option this year. You never know what the Cardinals front office is going to do. So where do they find relief on this team and this organization?
They're in a tough spot,
right?
Because I could see them getting pitching help. I don't really see them going out and getting a big bat. That would surprise me a lot.
They would have to spend money to do that.
There are some names out there, but for a big bat that's controllable, that has years left on a contract, you're going to have to give up a Liberatore or a Gorman or somebody.
Yeah.
And they've shown they really don't want to do that. And I don't really blame them there,
Me neither.
honestly,
I wouldn't give them up
I want to see those guys come up. But
we want to see winning now.
I think we're stuck. I think we're stuck with what we got, and fingers crossed that it gets better is their plan.
Is this season the definition of tanking without tanking?
Well, we'll get to that in our next segment. First of all, you've heard from us about this rough streak. Here's what Nolan Arenado had to say about the recent rough play by the Cardinals post-game.
And we're putting in the work. I believe it's going to translate. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, we can't. We have a plan, we have a process, and we got to focus on the process. And when the game starts, just go out there and compete. And we're competing. It's just right now, we're falling short.
Been through a stretch like this before, where it feels like the progress isn't being rewarded?
I've been through worse stretches this before. I've been through a lot worse stretches than this one before.
So that's the sad state of offense. Now we got to talk about the pitching, and that's an even murkier
Do we have
subject.
to talk about that?
We have to, Ahmad.
Right.
We have to. I'm sorry.
There's nothing to talk about.
So I gave you the rundown of where the Cardinals fall in batting numbers. So pitching, it's worse.
It doesn't get better.
331 walks this year.
That's not made up.
No, that's real. That's a real number. Most in baseball by 23. And if you're watching a game, that should come as no surprise because it never fails. They walk a couple guys, those guys come around to score, and then they lose by those runs that come around to score. They've also hit 55 guys. That's the most in baseball by 10. They got a 4.31 ERA right now, which actually is kind of in the middle in baseball. So if you want a little bit of a silver lining, but it's not nearly as good as what it needs to be for this team to compete. John Gant, they can't risk him anymore.
No.
They moved him to the bullpen starting on Saturday. He was always really getting lucky this year.
He was.
He had a pretty good ERA. For you stat people out there, his fielding independent pitching was 5.17, which is pretty much he's getting lucky when balls are getting hit to guys.
Yeah.
He has the most walks of any pitcher in baseball.
Yeah, I know.
48.
I know.
In 64 and 2/3 innings. They can't they can't risk it anymore. They're probably going to have to throw Wade LeBlanc out there, which is, don't think it's going to get too many people excited.
How many of you just smiled when he said that? None of you. I know you didn't smile because that's how we all feel right now watching this offense and these pitchers.
But you can't really do anything. You're kind of handcuffed because you got guys hurt. Michaelis is working his way back. Flaherty's working his way back.
Michaelis said something today that he hopes to be, throwing some bullpens by All-Star break. We can only cross our fingers.
I don't know. Yeah, it's tough. You can't count on him because he came back. He looked good for 4 innings, and then he got hurt and he's out again.
And that's the type of injury where you may have him come back. He pitches one game, then he's done for the rest of the year. That's just how it goes.
So I guess they think they have enough flexibility to move Gant back to the bullpen, but Carlos Martinez is here to stay, it looks like, this year. And Carlos. Can't even get out of the first.
Well, yeah, I was going to say an inning eater, but I guess you really can't
He can't even get out of the first inning or two lately, and he usually ends up being
the first
relieved
innings
by
have always
Woodford.
been Carlos's problem. Like, he could never get out of the first innings without giving up hits, walks, or runs, and then he'd be fine. Now it's like hit or miss. It's either you're getting good Carlos for 5 to 6 innings, or you're getting a
terrible
really bad Carlos for 1 inning.
He has a 6.78 ERA on the season.
Wow.
Kwang Young Kim has pitched pretty well.
But
he just can't. Yeah, he
can't go deep.
He's going to go like 3 or 4 innings each night and throw 80 pitches, and they'll have to go get him.
It's so frustrating, too, because this guy has good stuff. You see it in certain innings, and you see all the flashes, and then it's that one inning where he just can't get control of the ball, and then it's going all over the place. Next thing you know, the Cardinals are down 2 to 3 runs, and it's the same story every
and
night.
they got to take him out and deplete their bullpen again.
We're not going to have a bullpen by the end of the season.
Johan Oviedo, who I really like,
Yeah.
he's got some impressive stuff, but he has a blow-up inning every game, it seems like.
He does.
He might be cruising along, boom, then he gets knocked out, and you got to save him with more relief arms too, so you can't count on him. Thank goodness for Adam Wainwright, though. Like I said, I've been saying
Father time.
The only reason to watch a Cardinals game right now is when Adam Wainwright's pitching. You watch when Wainwright's pitching, and then if you want to watch the rest of the time, you cross your fingers that Arenado or O'Neill's going to do something interesting.
Yeah, just come in.
That's pretty much it.
Just come in during the 5th inning and get caught up on the first 4. With Waino, I mean, honestly, that's been the biggest blessing for the Cardinals this year. And this is a guy who they weren't even, well, I won't say weren't considering, but were considering letting walk in free agency. Just look at how that would have panned out if they would have let him go. I mean, he's aging like fine wine. It's a beautiful thing to see. But I think this also shows about how he prepares himself in the offseason. He's staying healthy. I'm not saying that other pitchers aren't doing that because freak injuries do happen, but this guy has been around baseball for a very long time. He has the recipe of how to stay healthy for a full season, and I think it's something that these young guys kind of need to pay attention to.
He's been great in June. He's 3-1. He's got a 2.67 ERA. One of the few guys not out here walking people.
Yeah.
So Adam Wainwright's, imagine if he hadn't been doing this. They need him to keep chugging along.
Right.
Bullpen we mentioned briefly hasn't been good. But the biggest thing is they haven't been able to utilize their guys like they want.
Nope.
Alex Reyes barely pitches anymore because he's supposed to be the closer, and they're not going to pitch him when they're losing unless they absolutely have to get him innings. So we barely see Alex Reyes anymore. And they don't want to use Gallegos and Cabrera if they're losing also because they like that boom, boom, boom to shut it down for a win.
And that's a really good 3 pitchers right there if you're winning and have a lead.
Yeah.
If you don't have a lead, as Corey alluded to, you can't throw those guys out there because then you're just wasting their arms, and you need them to be healthy.
It's a shame we haven't seen it play out like we thought it was going to play out because the bullpen on paper coming into the year looked dominant.
Well, everything on paper looked pretty good for the Cardinals coming into the year.
Well, there were always questions, but right now it's worse than anybody could have expected.
We always expected, Waino, Jack Flaherty to lead the starters, and then we expected Nolan and Paul to carry this offense, and they aren't carrying it right now.
One final thing before we head to our second segment here. The schedule was supposed to get easier in June. I think that's what's most depressing about these last few weeks. We've seen the Cardinals lose to teams that wouldn't be in the playoffs right now if the season ended. Yeah. Reds, Indians, Cubs, Braves, Tigers, Pirates. That's who they're losing to. They're not losing to the top-tier teams. And that's what's really a cause for concern, I think, because, okay, you know what, they had a bad week, but they'll make it all up when they play these lesser teams.
Yeah.
Not happening.
No, and I think what's more frustrating is the Cardinals know how talented they are, and they keep telling us that, but it means absolutely nothing because what we're seeing on television or when we go to the ballpark is a team that is clueless right now. They're without their aces. They're without their big bats, producing the way that they need them to produce, and I don't think any of the other guys know how to really handle this adversity right now. They're like, look, if Arenado and Goldschmidt can't get out of these slumps and lead us offensively, how are we going to do it? And I think that's just trickling down to everybody on the team.
It is a rough state of affairs, that's for sure. All right, so red hot seat, and I think I'd like to put a bunch of fans on the red hot seat because we're going to start placing some blame.
We are.
It's only June. But things are pretty dire right now, and the Cardinals are 7 games out in the NL Central. So we're going to place some blame.
Okay.
And who's most at fault for what's happened so far this year, Ahmad?
The players. The players. I'm going with the players. We'll start with the hitting. All right. Everyone wants to point the finger at Jeff Albert. Okay. I'm not a big analytical guy either. You know, the exit, velocity, speed, blah, blah, blah. See ball, hit ball. Simple as that in baseball. Okay. See ball, hit ball. So I think the players you talk about, oh, Jeff Albert isn't doing this or we're not prepared enough for opposing pitchers. Who's to blame? You're the professional baseball player who shows up to the park. You have all the film available. You have all the resources available. Watch tape on the opposing players, study their pitches, do what you got to do. Lock in. The same way you got to the major leagues was by hitting the baseball. Hit the baseball here. I know it's not as easy as I make it seem, but they're getting paid all the big bucks. I get paid to talk about it. So they kind of have to produce. So I say it's on the players. The coaches they're doing what they can. I mean, the coaches can't go out there and hit for you, so it's on the players.
I agree a lot there. It mostly always comes down to the players because teams or fans clamoring, fire this coach, fire that coach. That's not really going to make too much of a difference.
Well, they hit a few more home runs, everybody's happy, but it's like overall still striking out a lot.
Mike Maddox can't throw more strikes for the pitchers.
Exactly.
He can't. Jeff Albert can't get more hits for the guys. Now, I will say this. The whole Jeff Albert thing is interesting. I think there is a little bit he's not completely blame-free because it's entirely he came in and they gave him the reins to like remake the hitting philosophy from the major leagues down to the other minor leagues. So it's kind of his baby here, And if the results aren't there, he does have something that he has got to have something to show for it. So I don't think Jeff Albert is completely off the hook, but you can't just clamor for a hitting coach as the entire problem. Tommy Edmonds' comments were interesting, though, about how they prepare for games and possibly don't prepare for the pitcher they're going to be facing well enough, which that seems like a coaching problem, and that seems like a communication problem. So I think there is some blame for Jeff Albert here. For sure. I also think I'm one of the biggest John Mozeliak defenders out there.
You are.
But coming into this year, you get Nolan Arenado, fantastic.
Yep.
That's the biggest move you can make. That's great.
Yep.
I didn't think they would do it, props. But there were still holes you could see. You knew they needed another starter because guys were going to get hurt and there were just too many question marks. They needed another starter. They also needed a better bench because they're having to rely on that bench when guys aren't performing or guys are getting hurt. And the Cardinals bench right now is just terrible.
It's bad.
It's really bad. So I place a little bit of blame on the front office for not going out and making a couple other moves other than Nolan Arenado to really compete this year. So that's where I go.
Let me ask you this question since we're on the hot seat. John Mozeliak, the past 5 years the Cardinals have been in need for pitching, right? Who have they brought in?
Well, they've been really good at developing.
Okay, no. That's the old philosophy we're talking about now. Recently, aside from the development players that they brought up and stuff like that, we've had a need for pitching. Who have we brought in?
Miles Michaelis, Kwang Young Kim.
Okay.
Starting wise, those are really the only two outside starters that I can think of right now off the top of my head. Everybody else is homegrown.
Right.
Which it has worked out really well for them in the past.
It has. In the past. I think that's a strategy that worked out that we were all accustomed to growing up. Oh, we have the best farm system. Oh, just trust in the process. That process ain't going so good down in Memphis and Springfield and stuff. We have some young guys now. Yeah, we have young guys now.
There's a gap, and the Cardinals are hitting the gap when they need guys, but there's nobody ready yet.
Now let's talk about offensive-wise. We've been needing hitting for a while since pretty much Pujols left. Besides Arenado, besides Goldschmidt, who have we brought in on offense?
Well, and Dexter Fowler, that didn't work.
That was we knew that was not going to be a 20, 30 home run guy.
Yeah.
So who else?
Right. Nobody big.
Right. The front office has to do something. It is very much on John Mozeliak. And him making comments about, well, we don't have to win this year. Or what are you telling us? That you're prepping for 4 to 5 years down the road? That's not fun for fans. Fans don't want to come out and support that right now.
Yeah, you probably shouldn't be saying that, especially when all the lead up to this year after you get Arenado is boom, we're going for it.
And my thing is, I get you cannot win every year. And fans do get overzealous about, hey, we need to win, especially here in St. Louis, avid Cardinal fans. But what are we looking forward to right now? The bulk of our talent is older right now. The younger guys aren't producing the way that we hope them to. The young guys that we have in the system still have a ways to go before they're up here and producing every day. So when do you look at the roster, John Mozeliak, and say, we need help and I need to go spend some money, more money than I've been spending? He's on the hot seat. He should be at least, but I think he's very comfortable.
Oh, yeah.
He's not going anywhere.
He's fine. He's fine. Pretty much I don't think we're going to see any, unless it gets really, really bad, then they might ditch Jeff Albert and Mike Maddox, which I would hate to see because I don't know what Mike Maddox can do about anything. But I think Mike Schilt, John Mozeliak, everybody else is fine. Yeah. And here's, you know what? It's June. I'm gonna put a good spin on this before we end this. We're gonna be sitting here 3 months from now. We'll watch this back and we'll see how our level of panic was justified or not justified.
This would be good if they turn things around for one of those hype videos where we talked about how bad.
Yeah, they'll be using us in all of the season end people talking bad on them.
Gladly though, hey, I will be there because then I'll be talking about how good you guys did in the big turnaround. So we'll be here for that too.
Hopefully.
So not a lot of good Cardinals baseball news to talk about, but we still got it accomplished during this episode, right?
Hey, we did what we had to do.
Right?
Somebody's got to do it.
Exactly. So hopefully the Cardinals can get it together the rest of this weekend, get it together before we step on this set next week for another edition of Cardinals Weekly. With Corey Miller, I'm Ahmad Hicks. You all have a great week.